Good afternoon, family and friends. Firstly, I just want to thank you for your presence here today in the celebration of Emile's life and the mourning of his terrible passing, and all the support that has been given to you by the family, Henrietta, Ben, Robert, Kayleen, everybody, Tani Molly. I really think that when such a tragedy happened, I think the support is so important, because shared pain is half pain, and it has really been very valuable for the family and for everybody stepping up and just being there. We also request that you just respect the COVID rules, that you keep your mask on while we're inside during the ceremony. And if I can ask that you just switch your cell phones off during the proceedings, so that it doesn't bother the service and the streaming process. Because there is love, there is grief. And the stronger the love, I think the deeper the grief. And that's why I think that we need to embrace the grief and be with it, and sometimes just be with the pain and be with the impact that it has in our lives. And it's such a strange thing always that I think that death accentuates life, because only when you confront it with death in a situation like this does it re-accentuate your own life and making the most of your life and living life to the best way that we can. I really think that Emile could not have asked for better parents than Henrietta and Robert, better brother than Ben. All through the years, witnessing their complete dedication and love to him, always kind, passionate, compassionate, forgiving, guiding, mentoring, and just loved him in abundance. And I think for that, if you can look down from where he is now and you can look at that he has gratitude in his heart for that. And everybody that knows the Plattners would know how they loved this boy just in abundance and so complete. The day after this terrible news broke, I went to Henrietta and Robert, and I told them a story, and Henrietta asked me to share that story with you today, because she said that it brought such comfort for her. And always in my practice, when I share the story with people, I think it brings tremendous comfort. So if I may tell you the story. So it was in the year 1520 in a village far, far away from here. And there was a young prince, and he was very sick, right in a room at the top of the castle. And his father the king has just died. And he was in this room, and he overlooked the beautiful landscape of the kingdom, but very sick. And the next moment opened the door, and into his room walked the angel of death. And he had a kind face and a gentle face, and compassionate, warm voice with a long white coat. And he said to the young prince, "Come with me, it is your time." And the young prince said, "Please don't take me now. Give me some more time, because my father has just died and I'm the only heir to this kingdom, and allow me the opportunity to have some time to honor my father and being a good king for this little kingdom." And the angel of death stood next to his bed in a quiet way, and he said, "Okay, I will give you 40 years, and I will come pick you up and join you to where you must be on 5th of September 1560. So that gave him 40 years. And through that 40 years, he was such a good king. So the next morning, I left that out. The next morning he woke up and he was so much better, and he breathed, and he took over the kingdom, and he was such a good king. He lowered the taxes. He didn't allow any physical punishment. He was kind to his people. He built shaded cloths where the animals stood at market days, that they don't have to stand in the sun. He fought with his soldiers in the front lines, and he knew that he was never scared, because he knew he had a contract with the angel of death, and that it was not his time. And the years went on, and he was a happy and a good person, and people had a lot of respect for him. But as that day came closer, he started to reflect on that, and he said, I'm still young and strong. I don't want to die now. I think I'm going to hide from the angel of death. And he went to his wife, the queen, and he shared the secret with her. And he said, there's something, I've told you everything about me, and in my devoted love, there's one thing that I left out. I have a contract with the angel of death, and he's going to come and fetch me the 5th of September, 1560. And that was 10 days before that time. And then he decided, I'm going to hide from the angel of death, because I'm not ready to go. And about 10 days before that date, he selected 10 of his bravest knights, them on white horses, him on the black horse that the king always had. And they started to trek through his little kingdom, because he decided, if I hide from the angel of death, what I will do, I will be a farrier or a person who grooms horses, or I'll be a carpenter, and I live a way that nobody would know I'm the king and I won't be found. So they trekked day in and day out, and they were looking for a place where he could stay in his kingdom. But they couldn't find, day in, day out, and they were searching. And then funny, the morning of the 5th of September, far in the distance, he saw a little town. And he said to his knights, I have such a strange, beautiful feeling. I can feel this is where I belong. So you can go now and allow me to have this last end of my journey on my own. And he took his ring off, abdicating, and he gave it to his number 1 knight. And he swapped horses, and he gave the black horse to the knights, and he took the white horse, and he said, you can go now. And he kissed them and hugged them, and he started to walk towards that little town far in the distance. And everywhere, these little rabbits, and there's beautiful water, and it's so green, deer on the side of the little path that he walked slowly in front of his horse. And he was filled with such a beautiful feeling of contentment, calm, no yearning back for his previous life, no concern, no anxiety. Just have a feeling of, this is what I need to do. And it was about 5:30 in the afternoon when he arrived at the fortified city with a big wooden door. But it was locked. And he stood in front of the door, and he thought, sure, what will I do now? Because how do I get in here? Because it's only me here. And to the left of that big wooden door is a rock. And it was about 5:30 in the afternoon, and the sun just came right at the angle, and on top of the rock sat a man. And he said to the man, taking the sun like this away from his eyes, and he said to the man, excuse me, sir, I want to go in here. How do I get in? And the man stood up. And he had the beautiful calm and peaceful face of the angel of death, gentle, compassionate embracing, and his long white coat fell to the floor like that. And he spoke to him and he said, I'm so glad that you have arrived, because I've been waiting for you the entire day. So for me, that story is that we go where we belong. And him standing in front of that wooden door, feeling complete, that he's part of completion, that everything is complete in his life, the way it should be. I believe that the day we are born, that same day, in the rhythm of the universe, is the day that we are supposed to die. And sometimes we die young like this beautiful boy. And sometimes we have the privilege of being 100 years old. But I believe in the rhythm of the universe is the day that we are supposed to die. And let's allow him to be complete and be part of completion. And that life unfolds how it should, and it plays out exactly the way it should play out. And maybe you can reflect on that story a little bit and let that give you some kind of comfort that Emile is where he should be and how it was written in the rhythm of the universe. He had his privilege to spend his life with people like you that loved him. And he had the privilege to spend his life with Henrietta and Robert and Benjamin, being there for him and love him in abundance. It doesn't matter what. And that is unconditional love. And today I bow to them as parents. If I can give it over to Johan Loopscher, that will do the service for us. Thank you.
A classical author by the name of Thucydides once wrote, "What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others." This is echoed in the words of a modern-day poet, Dorothy Ferguson, who wrote, and I take the liberty of dedicating it to Emile, "Only a moment you stayed, but what an imprint your footprints have left on our hearts." We are all here today because a young man called Emile left an imprint in different ways on each one of you. Emile had a relatively short stay on earth, but one filled with a very unique contribution towards all who cross his path, with all the ups and downs that all of us encounter in some way or another. I never knew Emile in person, but during the past week and a half, I got to know him via people who experienced him up close and personal. And when I mention Rob and Henrietta, Benjamin, Louise, I accept with gratitude the privilege that I had to have some glimpse into the life of Emile through their loving eyes. I would like to read what Louise wrote, and which is printed in the program, because this is one of the glimpses into who Emile was. Emile was quirky. Emile was quirky, not easily fooled, and kind. His kind was a bit odd and a bit with a kink. Because he did not know one is not supposed to be just straight from the heart. If you did not always get him, it was because he did not know how to pretend. He did not know how to be what you wished him to be. Because he said straight from the heart, "How can I guess what you want me to be?" In fact, he did not understand why you wanted him to be what he was not, so that you could feel better about yourself and certainly not about him. He was too smart not to see through that strange human game everyone plays. And so he asked what he did not understand, without wondering if you would think he was dumb or slow. He said what he felt, without realizing most people want you to say, something else, heaven knows what. And so he searched for what he did not understand, without pretending to have found, because otherwise, why do it at all? Emile was quirky precisely because he was straight. Emile was quirky because he was honest. Emile was authentic precisely because he was quirky. And Emile was authentic because love is authentic. And isn't that the essence of life? To be authentic, and in the process, living your identity without pretense. If I read the Gospels, I get to see Jesus as someone who lived his life without pretense and without compromise. He was a rebel in many ways. He didn't conform to the discourses of his time. He challenged the establishment of religious thoughts, many of them man-made, and had to endure the backlash that he received for being different. Imagine saying things like, "You're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less." That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. Matthew 5, verse 5. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. Emile found his unique place in the home of Henrietta and Rob and his younger brother Benjamin. And as with all of us who have families, we experience the ups and downs of life, of being human with all its challenges, and in the process being bound together with an unbreakable bond of love. When I sometimes read in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the profoundness of what is said strikes me time and again. Love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't force itself on others. Isn't always me first. Doesn't keep score of the sins of others. Love never dies. Inspired speech will be over someday. Praying in tongues will end. Understanding will reach its limit. We only know a portion of the truth. Isn't it true that all of us are constantly looking for truth in all its facets? The quest for the true self, getting to know myself and also the significant others around me. I think that was what Emile was searching for as well, as do all of us. And each one of us has a different way of searching for that truth. Being authentic and living with integrity is part of that truth. And all of us have to constantly strive to create spaces where we can find ourselves and help others to find it when their capacity is not up to it for whatever reason, until they gain enough energy again to spread their wings and soar into the air, free to be themselves again. I was told that Emile, together with family and friends, often sat on some rocks on the farm and looking far down the cliff onto the eagle's nest below, and then seeing the eagle gliding above them, soundless and effortless, looking down at them, the small specks below, earthbound and clinging to the rocks for safety. Isn't that ironic that we as humans can rule the world and be innovative and achieve mind-boggling heights, and yet at the same time be so vulnerable? It reminds me of a passage, a metaphor that is written in Deuteronomy 32 verse 11, and which talks about God who cares for his people in difficult times. Like an eagle that stirs up its nest and hovers over its young, that spreads its wings to catch them and carry them aloft. That is the lesson that we can learn from an eagle mother. Henrietta, you have been that eagle mother, together with Rob, in spreading your wings wide so that Emile could have a soft landing when it was needed. Isn't that what all of us need at some stage or another in our lives? We all are vulnerable and not that superhuman after all. But that doesn't mean that we should give up on life with all its challenges. Losing Emile is certainly one of those challenges, a very painful challenge to face, but one that has a legacy of love engraved in it. Memories of Emile's 24 years on earth can fill spaces and give us wings to fly high and free again amidst the confinements of our own brokenness. I believe that Emile is now truly free to fly as he wishes, true to himself and much more, true to wholeness that we can't even begin to imagine. Emile, may you enjoy the fullness of eternal life and the freedom it brings. May you experience a peacefulness that only the Prince of Peace can give you, Jesus Christ himself, who welcomes you into his eternal home. In conclusion, I would like to read you a well-known poem written in 1994 by the Canadian storyteller and author who goes by the name of Uriah Mountain Dreamer. Uriah is a Hebrew name which means light of God. I would like to invite you, if you want to close your eyes while I read this poem. The invitation. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dreams, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear for further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving it, hide it, or fade it, or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes, without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, or to remember the limitations of human being. It doesn't interest me if the story you're telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. I want to know if you can be faithful and therefore be trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it is pretty, not pretty every day, and if you can source your life from God's presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand on the edge of a lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after a night of grief and despair weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done for the children. It doesn't interest me who you are or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments.
A colourful life, a busy life, a traveling and exploring life. A life too short. Today we have come together to remember and celebrate the life of our son Emile Plattner. Emile's childhood was very active. He loved kicking soccer balls and enjoyed jumping into the swimming pool so much. He was very agile, he was lightweight, and he bounced around the whole time. But he was also shy and reserved when he was in an unfamiliar environment. At times he would not stop talking, and at times he was very quiet and deep in thoughts. As boys do, he and his brother wrestled and fought, but it was always in good spirit. We took them for skiing, and as little as he was, he only knew one skiing style. It was straight down the slopes. We were horrified, but every time it worked out well. He had a liking for olives, and while in Dubai, he would only eat olives for breakfast. He enjoyed it so much. His rugby career was short, but very painful. He was the winger, he could run fast, but one heavy knock on his nose and his game was over. He decided on the spot that rugby is not for him. He loved the sea, playing in the sand and the waves. He would kick his ball into the sea for it to be returned by the waves. When he was 11 years old, he started playing a guitar, he took lessons, but it was always difficult for him to play for us as he tried to be perfect. He did not like making mistakes. During his grade 12 year, he chose to do volunteer work at the SPCA, and on his second day at the shelter, he saw a little cat which he immediately brought back to our house. His heart was big and he loved animals. After his matric years, he started working with his uncle, and in 2019, he started working at Hydroform as an intern. He was a sponge. He wanted to know everything about the business. His job gave him a sense of purpose and belonging. He was selling throughout Africa, and the messages we received from his customers confirmed that he was loved and appreciated by many. Emile, as a young man, had big dreams. And the one dream he always mentioned to us was his wish to move to Hawaii. He was not faced at all telling me that in a few years he will resign from our company to move to Hawaii. So my son, your journey to Hawaii has taken a different turn. I know in your dreams Hawaii was your paradise and safe place. In our hearts, we know you are in a safe place. We love you forever, and we will never forget the amazing times we had with you.
Dear brother, you may not be here, but you will always be in the clouds when I look up. You will be in my dreams to come and the journey I take as I grow old. I wish there was more time for us to grow old together, sharing the times we laughed till we cried. We were not bonded by blood, however we were bonded by much more than that. What we had was not always easy, as a brotherly relationship goes. You lifted me when I was weak, and shared when I steered wrong. You stood firm by me as I did by you. Together we were not only a team, we were brothers. I stand here not asking for more time or why. I stand here smiling, thinking of the years I shared with my brother. I stand here with tears of joy as I had you, a brother to explore the world with, a brother to cause chaos with, a brother to push me, make me stronger, and keep me safe in a world filled with dangers. We had what many will never understand. We had what few are able to experience. And that I will cherish in my heart for the days and years to come. I don't have that chance to give you those strong, breathless hugs, while you pull that face I so clearly can picture. However, I will always have the countless memories stored in my mind that I will not only share in the stories to come as I navigate through life with friends and family, but with the world. Those memories will forever be kept close to my heart as you were. Dear brother, know that I'm not alone, as I know you are the wind behind my back, the warm sun upon my face as I look to the sky. In these moments I will know I am not alone. I know those are the winds that will carry you aloft to dance with the stars and explore. I will always love you, brother. Thank you.
Okay. It's a tough act to follow. Okay, so I have been asked to share just a little memory, that one of my favorite memories I have of M. One of them is that he was not very happy that I called him M. He didn't enjoy it at all. It was only his mum that was allowed to call him that. He was quick to tell me that too. Gave me a lot of grief. But he really cared about me. And I think I was lucky to have taken up a small space of the big heart that he has still. I think he was an incredible brother to Ben and an incredible son to Tannie and Henrietta and Mom and Robert. So the story I want to share was when Ben and I were not dating yet. I walked up to him and I told him, listen, I really like your brother. I really like spending time with him. And he said to me, you know what, just wait it out a little bit. Ben will come around. And at the end of the day, I think that I waited it out. And I don't think he enjoyed the amount of presents I had in my Christmas sock. Then also, he had such a big heart that he would rather buy me and his mom quite expensive presents instead of buying himself a Zen garden. And I think a lot of us have a lot of memories with him and shared a lot of good times with him because he was quite a funny guy. And not very well understood at times, and I think now more than ever I think we'll definitely miss him a lot. Then I am reading a thank you message from Tannie and Henrietta to everyone. Thank you to M's friends and colleagues, Ben, Robert and my friends, and Ben's soulmate, and the Greifenberg, Ulwagen, Wissing and Tucker families. Monday evening, the 5th of September, at 9:05 in the evening, our lives as a family and unit of 4 was brutally ripped apart and changed forever. What followed was the hardest time we have had as a family. Looking back at this, very low and sad times, we could only see one set of footprints in the sand. We walked alone in our sorrow, devastated, shocked, angry, and overwhelmed. We lost our beloved M. How can we possibly survive through a time like this? How can we ever go on? We have done so with the outpour of your love and your kindness. You have shown us the strength comes from your heartfelt condolences, your daily supportive messages and voice notes and calls, and the honesty of saying, I don't have words, the company given when all we wanted was to be left alone, but so needed to have your presence. It takes courage to bear another's grief, pain, anger, anguish, and fear. Looking back now, we see it was not our, but your footprints in the sand. When God shows his love, he does so through you as you carried us through the sand in the last couple of days.
Thank you for such beautiful messages that really touch our hearts so much. Henrietta asked us that we have a little candle ceremony. As you came in, each one of you got a candle with Emile's name and his date of birth. And what I want us to do now is that everybody will light your candle from Emile's candle here in front, or share the light from Ben and Kayleen. One candle lights 2 and 2 lights 8, and that is healing. Grief is a stranger, we don't know him, but one day he walks into your life and he fills every silence, and he wakes you up at night, and he fills every discussion without saying a word. His presence is just there. And my wish for you is that you will be comforted and that a light inside your heart will be lit symbolically with this candle. And when you take the candle home, maybe at some other time, that you will find the comfort when you light the candle again. So the pallbearers will now come and remove Emile and take him outside. And I thank you so much for your presence and your compassion and your gentleness all through this process. Thank you very much. you.